In case the people in Washington have forgotten, we need oil in this country, and we need it badly. Yet nobody in Washington seems to be really doing anything about it. There's plenty of oil in Alaska, but special interest groups that are pulling the strings now have decided that we can't have any because polar bears live near there. Ironically, the administration considered adding them to the endangered species list, but decided to call them a threatened species instead. Secretary of the Interior Dirk Kempthorne announced the decision yesterday. I mean, here's a species, Mr. Secretary, that has gone from 5,000 in population to 25,000 in population, and we've just created a litigation nightmare.
Glenn, I'll tell you, unfortunately, I have to follow the law, or fortunately, but that's what the Endangered Species Act is about. That's why, as a United States Senator, I tried to bring about reform measures for the law itself. As governor, I had to live with that. But by going with the threatened, and this is based upon a 3-year administrative record, so I cannot overlook the law. I have a constitutional requirement to uphold the law. But this allows us to now put in place what has been in place since 1972, a program called the Marine Mammal Protection Act. All of the oil and gas industry in Alaska have been operating under that regime for 3 decades. And so they will continue to be able to go and explore and develop oil and gas in that region.
But, Mr. Secretary, you know they're not going to do that. I mean, this has come from the National Wildlife Federation today. They're already saying the decision should highlight for all of us a larger problem. Global warming threatens increasing number of wildlife species. They're now talking about going and protecting the moose, the salmon, the trout, birds. I mean, what's coming is litigation nightmare.
Glenn, ironically, you already have a litigation nightmare. In 2006, NOAA listed the coral based on temperature change of the water. So you have all of these. They're not going to be successful because the Endangered Species Act is very straightforward and simple. It is that you have to deal with the habitat and whether or not there is a take or the loss of a species. You cannot make a scientific claim that an emission anywhere is leading to the take of a polar bear in the north. U.S. Geological Survey has affirmed that. U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service has affirmed that. So while we have adhered to what the law is and is prescribed, this is not going to be the backdoor opportunity for them to then regulate greenhouse gases or climate change.
See, here's the problem. I mean, you say that they're not going to win. I was talking to the president of, Shell Oil here about 2 weeks ago on the program. I said, how long is it going to take if we needed to drill someplace to actually get the oil? He said, depending on litigation, but it's at least 10 to 15 years, but litigation can drag that out even further. Secretary Chertoff had to have more power given to him than anybody in the history of this country. He was given the power to suspend all of the environmental regulations so he could get the border fence built. For the love of Pete, when will anyone understand in government that we can't suspend the laws that all of you people keep creating there? Business needs to be on the endangered species list soon.
Well, Glenn, I'm one of those that voluntarily left the United States Senate to go back to Idaho because I believe in states' rights. So I didn't put this particular law in the books, but let me just add when you talk about supply.
I want to just, let me stop you here first. Sir, I'm frustrated, as many Americans are, and I'm not blaming this on you. I just don't understand what we're doing right now.
Glenn, if I may.
Yes.
In the last 6 months, we've had 3 significant lease sales for oil and gas. I released to Congress the next 5-year plan for oil and gas development. I included 48 million additional acres that had never been made available before. This includes the Chukchi Sea up there in the Arctic region. What OMB, the Office of Management Budget, had anticipated would be about $66 million in bids. We actually received $2.6 billion. Down in the Gulf of Mexico, just about 3 months ago, we had lease sales, and it was the highest amount ever recorded in United States history. So we're aggressive. We're going to bring about the further development. 1/3 of all domestic oil and gas that's produced in the United States is under the jurisdiction of the Department of the Interior, and that's one of our charges and missions.
Mr. Secretary, thank you so much. We'll be back with a response in just a second. Hang on. So all the dopes today are like, oh, gee, the fuzzy, cute little polar bear, you know, they leave out that is man-eating, is threatened. Is this a bad idea? Reed Hopper, attorney for the Pacific Legal Foundation. He's a guy who's planning on challenging the administration's decision. Reed, you just saw the secretary there. What's your reaction?
I think it is a bad idea. We will be challenging the listing of the polar bear in federal court as unwarranted.
Okay. Why do you say it's unwarranted? I mean, is it just because the population has gone from 20 to 25,000 since 1972? I'm sorry, from 5,000 to 25,000 in 1972?
That's one reason, but not the only reason. The other reason is that the Endangered Species Act does not authorize the listing of a species that is already protected by other laws.
Okay. I have several press releases saying these attorneys they were out late last night having cocktails and cake celebrating because this is going to be a cottage industry and they are going to start going after all these other animals because of global warming. Yes or no?
Absolutely.
Okay.
But beyond that, they will be lining up to challenge productive activity in the United States. They will be arguing that any industrial activity that contributes to global warming by greenhouse gas emissions harms the species and must be curtailed or stopped.
Well, the Secretary just said that that's not going to happen.
I think that's political cover for a bad decision, just wishful thinking.
Are other nations affected by this? I mean, we're currently spending $5 million doing a survey of the Arctic Circle to make sure that we can make a claim on some of the... They have, in the Arctic Circle now, 25% of the remaining oil and gas is up in that area. We're spending money trying to figure out if we can lay claim to it or at least stop Russia from laying claim to it. Even if we could get claim, could we get that oil and gas? Or will the rest of the world pay attention to the endangered wildlife claim?
There's always a possible ripple effect. The Endangered Species Act listing itself only affects activities in the United States.
Wait a minute. It's only affecting the United States?
The actual listing only applies in the United States. There could be some ripple effects, however, beyond our borders.
Okay. So in other words, Russia can say, screw the polar bear, and they can do whatever they want.
They're not going to be bound by the Endangered Species Act.
That's amazing. So that's, of course, going to be perfect for business in America and the oil and gas industry or anything else that we want to build here in America.
I think we're looking at the floodgates being open now for litigious activists trying to shut down any type of industrial activity that the activists believe is going to contribute to global warming.
Okay. Go ahead.
This could include challenges to agricultural industry, housing, transportation, energy, manufacturing. The ultimate effect is that we're going to see increased prices in energy, housing, food. It's going to affect the poor and the middle class the most.
Okay. Reed, thanks a lot.